Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Spill the Tea. This week it's with Veronica. Veronica comes to us with lots of experience in the personal development space. She has been an entertainer for over 2 decades and has been obsessed with behavioral science research. Today, she uses modern guidance tools to assist others with their guidance and personal growth. Hi, Veronica. Let's talk a little bit about, well, first and foremost, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. But let's talk about Modern Guidance. Okay, so Modern Guidance is Veronica's company, right? And
Yep.
tell me all about it.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I have an oracle deck, and it's basically empowering lessons. So a lot of people will go to that place where they're like, I don't believe in tarot. I think that's weird. And I'm like, I know. So that's why I named the company Modern Guidance, because I wanted it to be more science based, and I wanted it to be indirect healing, because most people get overwhelmed by the idea of healing and they're like, I don't know what's going to come out. I don't know if you're weird and you're just like going to know things. And so I also have a book that has the deck in it, but in the beginning of it, it tells a little bit more about me and how I came up with understanding how I was being guided. I believe in God. I believe all of my messages are channeled through God. And so I created these tools to give people the ability to connect with me and my insight in a way that isn't weird or uncomfortable or embarrassing to like talk about with people. When it comes to, the message I got today wasn't, towers or devil or whatever. It's, I just pulled up level up. And this card says, before moving forward, allow yourself to understand lessons from previous challenges. So you can pull an empowering guidance card every day. And so that one came up. I know you work with a lot of not only entrepreneurs and business women, but women in general. We're at a place where we're taking on so much of our own stuff, but also the world's. And so it's kind of nice to pull a card that reminds you that everything you learned was preparation for now. And moving forward, you don't have to look at everything that didn't go well, but more or less look at what you've learned. Like, your experience is your tools and your strength.
I love that. I love that. Well, it's definitely more empowering. I know someone pulled a tarot card for me more recently, like a month and a half ago. Oops. And it was the death card, which is so funny because obviously, like, we know from practice and just experience in this space that the death card is actually probably really good, because it means like you're shedding the old, you're like laying to rest old parts of you to step into the new. But it can be really intimidating and kind of scary for someone that doesn't work with in these realms in general, right? You're like, the
Oh
death
yeah.
card, am I going to die? Do somebody that I love gonna die? What's going to happen to me? So I love that you created a deck that's just more positive and brings out, positive nuances in everyday life of things to look at and look forward to. So that's awesome. What was it that originally, like, did you start with the book or did you start with the card deck?
So I have been obsessive about behavioral science since I was a child. And I have, in one way, shape, or form, documented the lessons. If I hear insight from someone or I just get these ideas, I document them. And so I've actually been documenting these lessons basically my entire life from the beginning. And, from the beginning, I'd write them down, but then they'd stick and I just repeat them and repeat them to not only clients, but friends and family. And that's how this was born, because I had gone through a chapter of my life where I just really needed to withdraw myself, isolate, but I had all these lessons that I wanted to share without sharing myself. And
Mm,
so creating this tool has allowed me to not have to go over all these lessons. They don't even come from me sometimes. It's just like, here you go. And people will share with me like, oh my God, I drew this card, I drew that card. And they'll cry because they'll say, I needed this. And I'm not even involved, but it feels safer. It feels more comfortable to receive a random message that isn't connected to someone specifically. Um, and so, yeah, like you said, the death card, most people, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I don't want to hear if I'm gonna die or someone I love is gonna die. And
right.
it does mean new beginning. But when you actually look at a lot of the decks, like it'll be a Grim Reaper. It'll be,
Yeah.
and that's part of why I think that emotion comes up like, oh my God, I didn't want to hear this, and it's rejected right away.
Mhm. No, 100%. 100%. So then tell me more about your book. What does your book go over?
So, my idea with the book, so first came the deck, and a lot of people were like, oh my God, it's tarot. And I'm like, it's not tarot. I had to categorize it because Barnes and Noble, I didn't, it was either tarot or oracle, and I had to categorize one of the two. So oracle is more of a channeled message. There's no rules in regards to what the cards are, the number of them. It's more loose. So that's why I named it oracle. But then, I still had people like thinking it was kind of weird. And I'm like, it's not weird, it's wise. So the book is life lessons, insight, and empowering stories.
Okay.
And so the beginning of it gives you like my life story. It's not that long. I didn't want it to be, but like here's one of the cards. So it's the size of a magazine, and it's more of a like coffee table book, so you don't have to like put it away with your other books to collect dust until you're ready to read. You can just pull a page. And so the one I just pulled up was individual strengths. You can't save everybody. But the book actually elaborates on what that means. So it's our individual strengths come from our lessons, believing that we are the solution for another's is creating a toxic dependency. We empower others by believing in our by by believing in their ability to save themselves. Encouragement goes much further than enabling. So this is like individual strength is like as mothers, I think we tend to, and as women, I think we tend to want to help somebody so bad that we believe it has to be us, and we put their burden on ourselves when ultimately we lead them by example and believing in them and telling them that they can do it, and then assisting them and supporting them versus taking on all of their responsibility. And so the card is a reminder that we are stronger when we are whole. And if we are not whole, we cannot deplete ourselves by putting ourselves in their driver's seat. They need to drive. We just need to give them the directions. So I just found a way to explain those things in an easy way. So all of it is relatable to us individually without being like, your trauma is this, what messed you up was this. It's more, this is how you fix it. This is the solution for, you being codependent with someone that is now weighing you down because you don't believe they can take care of themselves. And now you put their burden on yourselves along with others. We tend to do that with everybody. So
So was this something that came to you because like it took your lessons that you had already experienced and you wanted to put them out there for other people to gain insight from? Is that what the whole premise of the book is and the explanations?
yeah, so in the stories I share about my background. And of course, telling the story over and over makes me uncomfortable because it's just like, but it's important to share it. So my brother and I, we were a year apart in age, and absent father, paranoid schizophrenic mother. So we had to fend for ourselves. So we learned a lot of lessons the hard way. And I mean, he was super encouraging and super supportive. So he's like, but what did you learn? But what did you learn? every challenge, it was like, oh my God, this is horrible. This is what's going on. And a lot of business stuff. And that's when the documentation of the lessons started. And he actually passed last year. And during my grieving process, not only grieving his loss, but remembering the importance of him in my life. And, you know, just because he's gone doesn't mean what we learned together has to go away. And so that's when the whole idea was born. But what actually like pushed me into like publishing and just finalizing, these ideas was connecting with his spirit while he's gone, and him, don't let these lessons go to waste. Don't forget about what we learned. And he would always say to me, it's not about you, it's about everyone that follows. Everybody that's watching you is learning from you. And just remembering him through the grieving process reminded me that our lessons were for everyone else. When you learn them, that's one thing, but when you share that insight with another, you empower them and they empower another. And that's where it came from, is okay, now if we are wiped off the earth, he's gone and I could be. And it's like these lessons won't go to waste. Like they were shared, they were used as a productive tool. So
I
that
love
was the
that.
whole.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear about your brother. I am so sorry. That's really, really difficult. And grieving it brings up so many things. But I love that you were able to really take something positive from that experience and then, create something for the rest of the world. So
Yeah, that was
congratulations
the
on your book
goal.
and also your cards as well.
Thank
It's been
you.
really fun to be on the opposite side and kind of see like different phases of like, okay, they're gonna come. Okay, they're ready. Okay, they're live, and that's huge. I mean, I'm sure you probably went through a lot of emotions through that experience as well, right? So let's talk about that. What kind of emotions did it bring up going through like the business aspect of putting these tools out there?
Um, I just want to be a little dramatic and say it was a nightmare.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh my God, it was like, I think everything big is meant to like challenge us. And I mean, at every step, we take one step and then we're just like, this is all I could take. And then you overcome it. And then there's something else. So something that happened, I was grieving, everything was documented, I was putting it all together. And I had a cancer scare. And
Wow.
my partner that did the phenomenal artwork, Jackie Reynolds, actually got diagnosed with cancer also. Hers was so much worse than mine. And so it was hard to finish the project because we were both going through evaluations. We were trying to figure out how bad it was and what was coming. And then obviously the grieving process. And that's when I really connected with my brother. Like, you can't quit. You can't quit. You got to do this. And I'm like, I'm going to die. I got to finish this and put it out there so like it doesn't go with me. And it kind of brought me peace. But writing my life story, I mean, there were so many tears. There was so much like just digging, and like I just wanted to get it out of me. And that kind of pushed me to like tell the stories through a healed lens. And it actually empowered me because I was able to recognize not only how far I had come, but how much information and insight that I had within that was like locked in there, just things I had never shared with anybody were coming up. And that was so healing in itself. um the business part of it is, again, all these hurdles and all these different layers that you're not aware of. And you're paying people to do different things, and then they're not doing them, and you second guess yourself like, okay, should I say something? You really get into that place of ownership. And this is my baby, I want it a certain way, or I don't even care. It's just a lot of different things that come up. And it was challenging. But on the other end, like, I'm like, it's coming, and then the publishers are like not responding, and then
Oh,
they're like,
wow.
okay, yeah. And I mean, I finished all of this in December, and then I was just like waiting, and I didn't ever want to see it again or talk about it. It was just like, hey everybody, it's coming, like, you know. And I tried firing them. I tried to cancel the whole thing, and they're like, you're supposed to fire us within 90 days, not 7 months. And I'm like, that was your fault. You were, you're not. And it was just frustrating. um my friend is on the healing aspect. She had a double mastectomy. She's had starting radiation, had chemo. I had to shave her hair. um Obviously I have like this, not guilt, but like, oh my gosh, that could have also been me. I have to be supportive for her, and not sharing with her like the challenges, and just like, okay, here's an update, here's where we are at. And knowing that she worked so hard on it as well, and me presenting the finished product for her also.
Yeah.
And then like obviously the stories of like my family, like all of that coming up, where I'm trying to honor everybody in the most beautiful way possible while telling a difficult story.
Yeah.
It's just an emotional roller coaster every single day. Like, I'm quitting. It's like, you can't, and I just.
Yeah. Yeah, because your personal story has a lot of personal details about your family in it. So absolutely, I'm sure that that's hard to navigate. But I'm sure that's pretty awesome that you had supportive people around you at the same time. Was there a lot of resistance around you sharing your truth and your story when it came to other people being involved?
Um, Initially when I talked about doing it, they were like, "Well, what are you gonna say about me?
Yeah,
What about me?"
that's fair.
And yeah, and at that point, I knew that I had never seen myself as a victim. I mean, maybe I did then when I was a kid, obviously, but not now. So as I started writing, I recognized that I wasn't there anymore. I wasn't struggling anymore. I had overcome so much that I wasn't even the same person. So it
Mhm.
kind of brought me peace to know that it was very empowering once it was written. And I felt like it was important to not name names. I was very vague. The book ends when I turn 27. So, I mean, I'm in my 40s now, so a lot has changed and passed. So people can't really like connect with that as much.
Yeah.
These are stories I had never shared before. So, that was like, I had never talked about these things with people. They weren't involved. People in my life now weren't involved other than family, which again, I didn't say names.
Mhm.
So that was a lot of like, okay, like, I'm just curious what you said now, and so when it was completed, they were more like, wow, like, you make sense now. Oh my god, I didn't realize that was going on. I didn't realize that was happening. And not only did they resonate with like what I said, but they found this new connection with things that never made sense in the past, and that
Mhm.
brought me peace too. That was actually like really positive for people to know why they didn't know these things were going on. Like, it was not directed towards them. It was me protecting my mom and my father. And so now they're very like appreciative, again, where we're at now, what's been overcome. But most of all, none of it was put out there like a victim, that was a villain, that was the bad guy. Like, none of it was even framed that way, so that brought a lot of peace, I think.
That's amazing. Wow, that's huge. Now, this all started because of a connection that you wanted to share that you and your brother had and kind of start those stories and just put them out there. And then it ended up bringing all of this healing. Were you aware that that was on its way?
um that was that was the goal during the documentation of it all. So
Yeah.
I've been a lifetime student of being an assistant to growth. mostly because of my upbringing and what I had witnessed. And I knew that we could correct it. I knew that there were solutions. And as I found them, I was a hairstylist for over 20 years. I opened my first salon when I was 19, and I was the business owner. So I was the one that was responsible for fixing everything. I was very young. So I was constantly developing myself, training myself, going to seminars, just trying to be better at what I did. And I recognized really early on that a lot of my clients weren't there for their hair. They had something going on. They just wanted to feel better.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is therapy. And I started this thing called solution oriented discussion with my staff. I'm like, yeah, gossip and venting and, but this cannot be toxic. Like, this is the stuff people share with us. Like, we need to help them. We need to give them solutions.
Yeah.
And so that's how the documentation happened. And, me sharing that insight with customers. And then I started a healing center about 5 years ago. And it was just one-on-one, like, let's go to work. Let's deal with some darkness. And maybe you don't want to talk about what happened. So I found sound therapy. And I mean, I like science to show me how there's evidence to support that this is beneficial. So I started learning about energy centers and chakras and how it's wired into the brain and how trauma from childhood will prevent us from having security, safety, and relationships in ourselves. And so I learned that the problems weren't everything happening outside of us. The problems were what was going on internally that we didn't even have control over at some point. And when I understood that, I'm like, I have to share this with the world. Like, we're not messed up because we're just messed up. We have stuff that came to us internally before we understood. And so
Right.
breaking that down is a lot. So I try to find sneaky ways to like assist people with their growth and development without being, tell me your trauma. Let's discuss your fears, because people run.
Yeah. So when you actually like, because I thought, I guess maybe I misunderstood because I was under the impression that what part of what led you to the book and to the cards was after your brother passed.
Yeah, and it all kind of came together. I isolated myself. I was just by myself doing nothing in bed.
But you had
And
been documenting your whole life up to that point anyway. Okay,
yeah,
so it was just one of those things where it's like these stories and this documentation and all of the things that have kind of been like somewhat like filed in your brain or
yeah.
on paper, where it was time to share that,
And
right?
bringing it all together into a book,
Now, how did
just
that affect your own personal healing through that experience? Well, and do you believe that we're ever fully healed?
so I believe we're always leveling up. And
The
so it's
card
a
that you
different
pulled
fight.
today?
Yeah, it's always another fight. It's always another aspect of healing.
Yeah.
And um when the lessons were one thing, but the stories behind them were what came when he passed, because he was like the other part of me. And that's why I had to share my life story and my lens of his story as well, because he never got to tell his story.
Mhm.
And he achieved great, phenomenal things and was connected to so many, but no one knew the backstory. And so that was where our story became the beginning of the deck. But it had the deck in it as well, because the deck is just straight to the lessons and the strategy to overcome obstacles. And then you got the like, well, how do you know all this? Where did you get this information? I'm like, well, I'll tell you if you feel like reading 10 pages.
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing though. So you kind of just took all of it and then you put it out into tools for other people, hence modern guidance, right?
Yeah.
So then,
Yeah.
like when you first started, I know that you used to have a healing center, and then you kind of you like were like, okay, I'm shutting everything down, and you kind of went inward to have that time for your own healing, your own growth, and probably to just experience some of what you needed to through these lessons and where your life was at that point, right? So where does that aspect of your career even play into today?
So, when you look at something on the other end, when you're in it, you really don't know what's happening. You're just trying to swim and not sink, right?
Right.
And so when I had made the decision to just I'm done. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I'm doing. I had fallen into a depression. And I look at it now and I recognize that God was just like, you're about to really go through some stuff and you don't need the distraction of your company. When I look at it now, the overhead, the appointments, the staff, all of it. You don't need that right now. And I just got this insight at like 3 a.m. one night that my ego needed to say I had a company. My
Mm.
ego needed to say I was, making X amount, but my soul needed to rest. My soul needed to not be distracted. And so I had no idea what I was doing and why I was doing it, but I trusted. I just downsized everything. I gave myself a really like simple little foundation to hold me up. And then it all started. I mean, my son's father died. I went through a divorce. Some craziness happened there. My brother died. And I mean, this was all simultaneous. And I was so grateful that I had the ability to not see anyone if I didn't want to. I didn't have any obligation. And then it got, I was just walking in circles. I was not getting out of bed if I, wasn't going in circles. And that's when to connect with my brother, I started reading our lessons. And then I'm like, okay, what about our stories? And then it was just very healing to be isolated, to cry and no one know,
Yeah,
in my own.
absolutely. So it like was setting you up to kind of like go through these experiences. So you had started to dissolve your previous business before all this happened, and then all of this happened, came in like basically like a huge storm. And then now where are you? 'Cause I mean, do you
So,
feel like you're on the other end or are you still in it?
you know, I'm definitely on the other end, but the challenges are different now. They
Mhm.
are associated to all of this. It's like when that click occurs and you understand why things happen. Again, you're either sinking or swimming at one point, but then when you're floating and you're at peace, um, so I've been a firm believer of regulating my frequency and just, when I feel overwhelmed or I'm, depressed, I get myself as stable as possible in whatever is going on. I get myself out of the tornado so that I can make clear choices and decisions not based on fear. So it's like if it's not fear, it's love. So then it's like, okay, I love that I get to share my brother's story through my lens because I have an insight that no one else had and didn't understand. So I get to share that. That's love to me. That's beautiful. The fact that I was able to do this, I'm still like, oh my God, I was just like fighting and fighting and fighting, and now it's done, and now it's real, and now I'm a published author, and I it's surreal. Like what just happened because it's like the marathon you're training and then you're in it and it's ongoing, but then you're on the other end of it and you get to like, my body is not hurting anymore. I'm not, recovering from that battle anymore. I'm creating the plan for the next move, for the level up that's the unknown. And,
Yeah.
you know, that unknown's over, but now I'm in another unknown. So
Yeah. So now you're in a new wave.
for sure, yeah,
Yeah.
different. So the book, the deck, are tools that I share with others. I do a lot of groups with a lot of women, and I love groups because I know that they impact and connect with so many. And if the group that we are working with all gets themselves balanced and level up all at the same time, it's just so beautiful to like support each other. And
Mhm.
so I get to share myself with so many at once. And then, it's like the ripple effect. And that brings so much like joy to my heart, knowing that that's the phase I'm in. So I'm more focused on connecting with these groups than I am with, oh my God, I have this many one on ones. I have, this overhead. Like, it's just different, but it's also exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So then when you go, like when you're in that kind of like, I don't know, fight or flight state or like feeling those overwhelming emotions, what would you suggest to the audience? Like what would be your go-to things? I know sound healing is one of them, right?
So yeah, and I mean, if we'll start with what sound healing is, just because there's so many avenues outside of myself. There's so many resources on YouTube that are free, and it's basically frequency. And frequency is going to dissipate those blockages and those barriers within. So when you break down what barriers, what are you talking about within? Those are your energy centers. So from birth, you have your root. A lot of people don't like the word chakras, but if you understand chakra, that's an energy center.
Right.
That's your foundation, like a house. Like if that's weak, that energy can't come up through your throat where you speak your truth. Your heart isn't getting the blood flow that it needs to empower not only your brain and your crown, but your identity and your passion. And so this is all like the mechanics within the body that the doctor doesn't explain to us. They show us
Right.
our bones and but they don't tell us why we're flipping out, why we're crying, why we, you know, are afraid of, what happens. They don't explain that to us. And
Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Hey,
okay,
Mac.
um, I was getting a call.
Uh,
So, what I try to educate others on is when they feel like you could usually tell where you're feeling it, like your heart, like you're not breathing, you know, tap on your heart, get movement there. If you don't have sound bowls or access to YouTube, you can go on YouTube and just listen to high frequency. One of my favorites is 888, and that will just like puncture all of that weight and heaviness of energy that is suppressed. So when we're dealing with stuff, we'll often we'll suck it up. We're afraid. Oh my God, that's scary. And we don't want to just like show it. We don't maybe want to address it in that moment. So
yeah.
it's like now stagnant energy. Now our metabolism's off. Now our body's afraid. So it's holding on to, toxins and stress and weight and, and it's from what's going on inside. So if you can tap on your body in the area, I highly encourage everyone to look up energy centers or chakras so you can know which one's bothering you depending on how you feel.
Yeah.
But you can tap on your body. You can jump around and do jumping jacks. You can do yoga. And I mean, whatever is causing, it doesn't have to be exercise where you're like, you know, ah,
Yeah.
it's just folding your body, like bringing your knees up to your chest while you're laying on your back, like in between clients, singing that vibration, the words, do it in the shower. You don't have to be, Mariah Carey, but that vibration is going to create movement and blood flow in the area that you're like, holding where you don't want to speak your truth, where you're second guessing how you feel and you're not wanting to say it. And so that's how you remove that energy. Energy is always there. It's just, is it good or bad? You know, laughter is huge. If, you know, you're feeling down, find things that make you laugh, make yourself laugh.
Yeah.
And that'll reset you internally. And so I do a lot of these things every day. I will zap my brain with frequency. I will do yoga. I will do jumping jacks. I will get myself centered in my body so that everything that I believe is to blame for, you know, how I feel, I can recognize that it's me. And if my frequency is off, I'm going to find things to blame on how I feel. So if I feel bad, I'm like, okay, you don't feel so good. Deal with your, you know, your body, get in your body, feel safe in your body so that everything you see can be through a loving lens. And that changes everything. And we all have that ability to like fix and correct at any moment.
Yeah. So do you feel, I mean, I know recently, this is kind of funny. I've been seeing a lot of things just on Pinterest that talk about this frequency for this for this for
Yep.
this. And you can really look up anywhere, like even Insight Timer, YouTube. I mean, we have so many, yeah, so many avenues now. So are there any that you would say specifically to stay away from?
So yeah, I think that there is a lot of like bad content out there, to be perfectly honest. There's more and more understanding in regards to how people can manipulate others, how they can make people feel a certain way. I mean, that's marketing. And in a world of social media and, you know, really diving into like those lower frequency things, um, the lower the vibration in something, the lower your energy is going to feel with it. Your heart will go with that rhythm. And so that's kind of how you can tell if a source isn't positive. I've found a lot of like meditations that are actually kind of demonic, which is scary to think about, that there's subliminal messages in there. And you can tell right away if it makes you feel like, ooh, like protective of yourself, change it. Don't give it a chance.
So what is something like to know positive versus negative, or what feels right or what's not? Like for people that just aren't really connected in that way, what would you say? Like, is there a specific number frequency we're looking for to be above, or like what is it for? You know, like for someone that wouldn't even recognize that, or you put it on right before you go to bed and it's just playing. Like, how do you know? How do you really know?
So again, the first thing is you might feel uncomfortable right away. Your body will be like, whoa, what's, you know, and there
Yeah.
will be nothing around you to support. So you're like, okay, this did this. That's the number one thing
So it's
is
like your
do,
gut intuition.
yeah, you gotta trust it. Another one is the heart, the love frequency is 432, and anything above that is going to be healing.
Okay.
So anything that you see, a lot of them will say, you know, this megahertz frequency, if it's under that, it's just frequency, it's not healing. So you want to go above 432 to get that blockage removed. It's, again, it's like when you see fog machines and it's like super thick and now you can see the projection of the lasers that is coming through. But if it doesn't keep going, you don't see the fog anymore and you don't see the laser. So that's basically what you want, is to be a higher pitch so it gets rid of that fog, and then you're connected with yourself and you can create your own then. Another one to look out for, a telltale sign, whatever,
Yeah.
that may be subliminal, is like, I know a lot of people really like drum and bass and like heavy metal, and those have lower frequencies in them, just so you know. So it kind of messes with your anger. It kind of heightens that passion without getting it clear enough to like be productive with it. So be aware of those frequencies too. Um,
That's so interesting because there are definitely certain genres of music where since childhood, if I listen to, I'm like, oh no, like immediately it's a full body
yeah.
no.
Yeah. And you don't even know why. It just feels scary. And yeah, and I think that a lot of people will be introduced to it by friends or whatever family, and it becomes comfortable, like a reassurance. And sometimes just pulling away from it in order to heal is productive because it'll stop that loop within from occurring of those memories.
Mhm.
Music is the universal language. So if you have like childhood songs that were upbeat and happy and they bring you back to that time, play those. Maybe if like a breakup occurred and there was these songs that you guys listened to together that were sad, like don't do that to yourself. Like wait until you're like on the other side of it so that you don't stay in that sadness, and
Yeah.
then you can see it like through your new lens, and then your new lens probably won't like it, and your
Yeah.
new lens will probably be like so dissociated from it that it won't feel normal anymore.
I love that you use that as an example. Like, how many times are we going to go through this breakup?
And we do that to ourselves. I think that we want to justify our pain, and so it's super important to like, okay, I'm thinking about the same thing. It's not productive. Okay, how do I like reset myself? How do I, get past this like reoccurring? Because no emotion is permanent, a bad one or a good one. And if we can recognize this isn't productive, this isn't doing anything positive for me, if we can recognize that, then we can like zap ourselves. I call it zapping, because I have these, I can share the links with you. They're only like 10 minutes, and they're high frequency and they're protective because we get a lot of people that attach themselves to us, our energy, and we call those cords, energetic cords. And it can be people from the past, it can
Mhm.
be, friends or foes that just attach their happiness onto us, and we feel it and we feel drained and we don't know why. And
Mhm.
so when we reset our own internal compass, that is when we know it's not ours. That's when we get our power back and we get our energy that allows us to be productive with what we need. And so I'll say, okay, I need to zap my brain today before I start my day. I'm grumpy or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you just it's like you get meditated where you're just like blank and you're like in this spirit realm and nothing matters, nothing's attached to you, nothing's connected. And I call that bliss or clarity, where you could move forward now in a beneficial way versus, it's love or fear. It's love or fear. This is fear. Nope. This is love. Cool. I can do it. And it doesn't feel so hard when you do it with love, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well, I think it's so important for us to also carve out time to make that happen. I love
You
that
know,
your mug has brass knuckles. Seriously? You're pulling in your protection just with your coffee, right?
so this is funny. It used to say bitches be tripping, but I've like washed it too much. And I love it because it's a bigger mug and I can
And
hold
you just
it.
pulled
And so
it.
I forget. It's yeah, I forget. It's old. Like
I'm
10
like,
years.
so gangster, Veronica, so gangster.
I try to keep it real, man.
It's so funny. I know. And your analogy with the fog machine makes me laugh too, because of your entertainment background. I'm like, that is totally not an analogy that would have come natural to me. But you're like, yeah, with the lasers. And I'm like sitting here trying to imagine, like, what, like, I think I
What
was
did
like
you
15, 16 when I was at like, I don't know, maybe it was a rave or something. I don't even remember the last time I saw a fog machine.
you know, another good one is the projection screen that comes from us from within, from our own energy, and people will be the the projection screen that we put, our vision on how we feel. And it's important for us to realize that people do that to us. You know, like, I
Man.
feel bad, you're the bad guy, you're in front of me. I'm happy, you're beautiful, you're great, you know, because it's how you feel and it's how you view the world.
Mhm.
So we have to recognize that we all project from what's going on within, and we can't take it personally. You know, if somebody wronged us or hurt us, like, they're wronging and hurting themselves. They don't know better. We can't give that too much energy because they have to deal with their own, you know, perspective of the world, and so do we. So again, like, I always do that. Okay, are you the screen that's in front of me because I'm so pissed at you right now? So does that mean that I'm the problem? And then, you know, often it'll be like, okay, I'm actually remembering, you know, this other person, and now I'm attaching that whole thing to this person, and that's not cool, you know. But when you recognize that your projection is landing on that screen, it gives you your power, and you get to like change it, and you get to say, okay, this doesn't work for me, this isn't, you know, something I need in front of me, or this is definitely something I need in front of me, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that it's also an interesting thing to try to explain the projection aspect of things, because normally sometimes when we get that gut punch too, we feel like it's all of a sudden triggering something in us that's probably it's something unhealed inside, right? And then
Yeah,
it's like, oh, well, you did this to me because it made me feel this way. And it's like, no,
yeah,
that feeling probably comes from a trauma response or something that happened in your past that you haven't yet surfaced and dealt with, that now it's being projected onto this other person, just like you just explained and described. And trying to explain that to someone that hasn't yet, like, it's almost like it's a perspective shift, right? And sometimes it's really hard to explain, like, actually that's not my problem or my emotion or something I did wrong. That's something you're holding me responsible for because someone else did this to you. You know,
right.
it's huge. It's really
So
huge.
that, taking that a step further, because I know a lot of your clients and what you're surrounded by is people in search of the formula, you know, just tell me how to fix it. and and
Yeah.
and we're sharing tools. That's exactly what we're doing, is, you know, by sharing our examples, you know, we don't know where this is going to land, so us giving examples is going to allow them to project it onto themselves, because we do that, you know.
Yeah.
What do I think, how do you know, um but the perspective change is the best. There's a card. um Changing your perspective is, no one is right or wrong, it's just you're looking at it the wrong way. And so rather than saying you were wrong, you were wrong, you did this, or, you know, you did or you didn't, whatever, it's besides the point. It's okay, let's look at it differently. My favorite has always been the 6 and the 9. You and I are across from each other, you see a 6, I see a 9, we're both right. But if we turn and we stand in each other's, you know, previous locations, we'll see what the other one sees as well. And then oh,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
So sharing those stories is very beneficial to the people listening and the people telling them, because it takes out the blame and the judgment. You know, it's more, I'm going to invite you to see it in a different way, which is far more productive. And the projection thing is also something that allows us to understand another as we do it ourselves. We give them grace because we give it to ourselves when we realize, like, we're the grumpy one, we're, you know, the one that was hurtful. It's like, oh my god, you're annoying me so bad, I must be that annoying. And we see those things when we're ready to deal with them. So if we're struggling, it's actually a gift. Like, rather than running from, like,
Yeah.
your trigger, that's actually your opportunity to know it's there, know it's still bothering you, and having the ability to get through it so that you don't have to face that, you know, dragon again. You know, like a video game, like, you beat the boss, and he beat you a million times, and now you know how to beat him, and you know that you could beat him again, but you learned to move forward to have another fight, and you get to understand that when you started you didn't know, but you know now. And that's how we give ourselves grace, is like, okay, teenager me, 20-year-old me didn't know better. And so when you come across a 20-year-old, you're not like, oh, you little idiot, you don't even know anything. It's more like, oh my gosh, I remember when I was there and I didn't know, and now I know. And so it takes that like darkness away when you ascend. it They say, how do I ascend? How do I reach the level of like healing? How do I get there? And it's like every day is a new opportunity to feel clarity by letting go of what no longer serves you and just taking the lesson from the challenge. You could keep reliving the beat down, but that's not productive. You can look at it like, what did I learn? What flamethrower did I use? What, armor did I take that day? And then you just remember that. And then you're ready for the next one because,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that you share all these tools and that you empower other people to incorporate them in their lives. I think that's huge because I think it's a matter of like when we don't know and we're in these spaces of uncertainty and when we're in the war, when we're in the fire, a lot of times it's like we're, like you said earlier, we're just trying to survive, not sink. And these tools are things that people just should, they probably ought to just try, because everyone's gonna like they're gonna be attracted and connect with different things in different ways, and some things are gonna work better for others than one or the other. So I think that just having an opportunity to have a place to go, to have options to answer those calls is huge. So thank you for feeling called to create these modalities, these cards, this book. What's next for you?
So I'm currently doing a lot of promotional stuff, a lot of interviews, and just, getting really comfortable with my message in regards to this chapter.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I'm like, oh, but it all led to this, because I get that now, but it's like, okay, but what is this going to lead to? Like, not so much the journey, but the destination. And I tend to like stick in the journey area so much because we're all in our own journey and we all don't know what the other side looks like. And we're all trying to find a way to get through this moment. And so I like to share that it's all evolving. That's where I came with modern guidance, because it's evolving. Like there's going to be more information that comes up, a new perspective change. And it's okay to like let go of versions of ourselves that no longer exist, but to honor them by giving them a mention. So like my hair, my club, my healing center,
Yeah.
a lot of lessons were learned there, so I bring them up. But where this is going is larger groups that I can connect with all at once, that have enough information to empower everyone there around as quickly as possible.
I love that. I love that. So how can people find you? Where's the best way for them to get more information, follow your story, follow your journey, see what you're up to?
So the book is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Hay House. It's all over the place. I also have a website for my services, as well as my deck, as well as my book. It's modernguidanceshop.com. And then, of course, social media is, a fun way to just get to know each other, find each other, kind of watch each other's journey as it goes on. I have fun watching all my clients and friends' journeys as well, because it's just evolving. It's just like, oh, I thought I was onto something, and it turns out I actually hate this.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
So what is the best handle to find you on? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook?
Probably if it's like messaging, probably Instagram. I don't really utilize Facebook Messenger. I do more posting on Facebook. It's just a larger audience. But I don't engage as much as I'd like to, but I know that it's comfort for others to communicate that way, so I'm trying to do better about that.
So would you say that it's better for them to follow you on Instagram? And if so, what's your handle?
Okay, so it's Veronica O Hernandez 11, and then yeah, I just use my name on Facebook as well, Veronica Olga Hernandez,
Okay.
and then yeah.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so, so much. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, I
Perfect.
like,
I
we'll
love
just
it.
see
Thank
how
you
it
so much.
goes.
No, thank you so much for being here and going live with me today and just sharing all the things. I really appreciate your presence today. And
Thank
I
you so
can't wait
much.
to see where this all goes because I know it's going somewhere.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing your stuff too.